Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino, that Pinguino Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens, and today we are getting back into the Final Fantasies. It's been a while since Lightning returned, and now it is time to go back into the origins of the series, which of course means we are playing Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins, the origins of Jack Final Fantasy. And I am joined in all FF discussions by Chris ZombiePie Redacted. Hello, ZP.
So I don't know if you've been following the top 10 lists, top 20 lists that are happening as a result of the 35th anniversary of the Final Fantasy series. But Gino, what does it feel like to live in a world where Wakka is second place and Zidane, the highest placing Final Fantasy IX character, is fifth? Wakka outvoted every single Final Fantasy IX character, even your sad mage boy, Vivi.
That feels inappropriate, but
What
Wakka's beloved.
listicle is this? Where is this?
I don't know, but
Oh.
ZP manages to always find the most cursed listicles and then be like,
does.
look, there's a person who has this opinion on the internet.
Also, Final Fantasy IX ranked, I think, 7th out of 10.
You see, you're just saying that, but you're not blaming anyone. Which
Yeah,
is
it's
kind of like
you know,
if I just
right.
came in and said, like, jelly is more popular than peanut butter. Like, to whom? Right?
This is
It's-
Japan. Japan voted Final. Well, of course, Japan voted Final Fantasy
Did they?
14 as number
Was it a
one.
mail-in ballot? Like, who was eligible? Was it the legal
It was
voters?
an NHK Japan poll, my guy.
This is a random Twitter account?
No, this is the actual results of the NHK
If
poll.
that's an NHK poll, that's pretty wild. I'm not disputing what you're saying is accurate, but if that's actually NHK, that's actually fucking crazy. I don't know, man.
Emmett Selch was one, and then Wakka, sure, whatever, who cares?
Emmett Selch?
He's a
Final Fantasy
FF14 character. That I don't know
Oh.
what his deal is.
That I never will, so that's cool.
Yeah, but like 9 was 7, which is about the right place for 9.
I mean, it's all 14, 7, and 9. I mean, the top is just 10, 14, 7, and 9. No characters from any other games. That's fine.
I mean, Wakka, obviously.
We're-
Clearly.
So
So it was 14, 7, 10, 6, 9. Actually, 9 was 5. Then 5 was 6, 8, 7, 4, 8. 11 was 9.
if you
and
put
then
all of
15 was
those,
10.
if you put all of those combinations in, I think that's a password for someone. I don't know who though. We've got that other voice you heard is the host of Off the Deep End, who's also been joining us on all these Final Fantasy podcasts, Jeff Rude. Hello, Jeff.
Hi, sorry to bust in. I was just kind of made incredulous by ZP's claims.
That's
However,
fine. That's what he does.
very oddly topical, sort of ruminating about the entire history of this franchise, to be playing this game of all the games we could possibly be playing. We'll get into it, but I have been surprised at just how much of that goes on in this thing. And not only that, but how well they managed to keep it under wraps, what this is actually doing.
Yeah, I mean they did a very good job of showing you just some of the weird early cutscenes and then nothing else about this game when it was being promoted, which is kind of baffling, honestly. It's impressive. I've been told, ZP, that you have a food review.
I do. I have another food review. This is for your people, Gino, the vegetable peoples.
Okay,
So
I wasn't
it
sure
is
if
the
it was an
Christmas
Italian
time.
thing.
It's a Christmas time thing. So I eat a lot of chocolate. So I bought something that I saw on the Walmart shelves, and it's called Get Back to Human Vegan Paleo 70% Cacao This has no refined sugar, no cane sugar, no sugar alcohols, something that starts with the letter E. None of that. No dairy, no soy, no palm oil, no lectins, no vanilla extract. Not sure why we need to throw vanilla extract with evil chemicals. But this is a vegan paleo dark chocolate, and it's called cashew butter. Dark chocolate.
So that's the fat in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's in a brown paper wrapping to make it. I think this is compostable. So it's not only just vegetable people. It's hippie pippy peoples.
I like the judgment. Just every word you're saying
Okay.
expresses disdain.
Okay. Now this is going to sound weird, but when I have chocolate, so this was like for a bar. What is this? This is 2.1 ounces. This was being sold for about $4 for this bar. Small bar. This is going to sound weird, but I'm going to bonk it on my head, and I'll explain why.
Please do.
Okay.
I need this.
Okay. No. Nah.
Are you?
Okay. So that's a solid bar. So the reason why I bonk chocolate on my head
Yes.
is because if it was like milk chocolate or something that has a lot of sugar in it, it bends and it kind of
Yes.
like has a soft thud. This is thick. This is a good, I'm going to say an authentic dark chocolate that is actually using cacao.
You know, you can just snap it with your hands. You don't have to hit yourself in the head.
Oh, wow. This is dark. Okay.
Wait,
It has the right smell. It has the right chocolate smell.
I've gone to a chocolatier before. They tell you you want the snap,
Okay.
but they don't tell you to hit yourself with it.
Okay, so it's the regular bars. I can tell that the cashew butter is in the middle of here. So it's got the chocolate around it, and then there's cashew butter in the sides.
Oh.
Let's try this.
Okay, while he's chewing, Jeff, have you been instructed to hit yourself in the head with chocolate? Is that a thing?
Never in my life.
Eh.
I know I know how to eat chocolate.
Okay, so you like the snap. You've heard of the snap. That's a thing,
I'm
right?
familiar with I watch enough cooking videos and have seen enough people go from like raw cacao to chocolate that I might be able to do it, but I've never tried it. As in try to make a bar of chocolate.
Okay.
So what do you think of vegan people, Chris? Are they dumb for liking this or not?
This just doesn't have enough flavor to it. The complete lack of sugar. Let me read the ingredients here. Okay, organic cacao, unrefined coconut sugar, organic cashew, cocoa butter, vanilla bean, and sea salt. Needs more sea salt. The flavoring here is just very muted as a result of the simple ingredient list. It does have that immediate dark chocolate punch, but like this cashew butter, can't fucking taste it. Like it's barely there.
I mean, is the cashew butter a filling, or is it just
It's a filling in the middle.
medium? Okay.
It's a filling in the middle.
Cashew butter's pretty good. Generally, it's pretty fatty, in my experience.
This is okay.
Cashew butter.
This is okay. I just think it's overpriced. I think just you get your normal dark chocolate bar that you get off the shelf. Doesn't matter who makes it. I'm going to give this a solid 3.5 out of 5.
Okay, solid 3.5 out of 5 for this bar that you found at the grocery store.
And yeah, kids.
Who is the maker of this?
This is Get Back to Human.
Get Back to Human. Okay, there we go. And remember, children, bonk
on
yourself
your
on the head with the chocolate, and if it hurts, it's good, and if it doesn't hurt, it's full of milk and sugar.
Yeah, that's literally it. You explain. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Nailed it. All
Yeah.
right. Well, just a reminder, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have comment sections for our podcast, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can send us emails, and you can support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. And we are continuing our drive for raising money for the National Network of Abortion Funds. So if you're in a position to do so, please donate to them. All the links to the aforementioned things are in the podcast description. ZP, are you going to continue eating chocolate throughout the show?
Oh, I should mute. Sorry.
Okay. I mean, look, you enjoy your chocolate, even though it apparently does not rate very highly. So today we're going to be discussing
It was $4, my guy. I have to eat this shit. I have to eat the entire bar in one sitting.
Why do you have to eat it? I mean, it doesn't go bad. What?
Yes, it does. It melts, and then you know how you put chocolate in a refrigerator, and then all the fat comes out of the chocolate and it comes up to the surface? That's the worst.
Not if it's dark chocolate.
Wait, really?
We don't need to do this. Dark chocolate, there's less fat, so it won't separate.
You've lost. You've lost, Gino. You've gone and engaged him.
Yep,
he chose the field of battle, and you just walked into it.
Yep.
Okay. This is ZP's Austerlitz. Okay, and you're looking very, very Austrian right now.
Yep. If you start wrestling with a pig, it's going to beat you on experience. So we played Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origins, the game that came out now 6 or 7 months ago, maybe longer, or beginning of 2022. I picked it because I played it for a fundraiser. Jeff, could you explain to me what Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins is?
Did it your way.
I can give that a crack. So Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins is let's call it a collaborative effort between Square Enix and Tecmo Koei. Specifically, the part of Tecmo Koei that's responsible for the Neo games, I believe.
Yes.
If you don't know what Neo is, it has nothing to do with 80s new wave music or The Matrix or really anything like that. It is I guess series, because there are two of them, of feudal Japan themed Dark Souls-esque games, which came out of one of the earlier games that was ever announced for the PlayStation 3. Neo is one of those like vaporware games that was sort of mentioned once or twice and shown in trailers and then just went dark for ages and was never really taken off the books. And I don't know this for a fact, but my intuition is it was reworked like several times as a result of like
finished being that was a Souls clone.
When it should have, Souls clone.
Sorry, finish your sentence, Jeff.
I mean, you probably know more than I do.
So it is important to note that the period of time in which Neo was being made, Team Ninja was going through a lot. Let's just be aware. So Team Ninja was originally founded and led by a man by the name of Tomonobu Itagaki, best known for the revival of the Ninja Gaiden franchise, as well as the Dead or Alive series.
Also for
games.
Sunglasses and leather jackets.
For sunglasses and being a lecherous pervert. When let's just say that Tecmo Koei or Koei Tecmo, it depends on wherever you live, which order those two companies appear in the logo. Similar to Namco Bandai, right, Jeff? Yep. The breakup between Team Ninja and Itagaki was fraught, let's just say. Never the twain should probably ever meet. And the man that was put in charge of Team Ninja later was a guy by the name of Yosuke Hayashi, who later was replaced by another person. So they've gone through a lot. And after a couple of stumbling points, Neo was kind of the thing that they put a lot of money into, kind of to introduce. This is the new Team Ninja, and basically has refocused the company since, Dead or Alive as a franchise has basically died a death of a million cuts.
Yeah. And it's Final Fantasy Opera Omnia they still work on. They did Neo, and now they've done Stranger of Paradise.
They also did Dissidia NT.
These are the people that made Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 as well, or one of these studios did. Weird portfolio.
Very weird. It's all over the place.
I guess the Dissidia connection is okay. So that's where Square comes into this picture because, as mentioned, these were the Dead or Alive and then the 3D Ninja Gaiden people for a long time. They made that Hyrule Warriors game, which I guess is on Switch as well as the Wii U. And yeah, shortly thereafter, you get Dissidia Final Fantasy NT in 2015. And from there, there's enough handshake between them and Square Enix that when they, I guess, wanted to dip their toe into this genre, this is who they contracted out to do it.
And it makes sense. I mean, they're an action RPG or just a strong action game company traditionally.
Mhm.
So this game, Stranger of Paradise, Final Fantasy Origins, tells the story of Jack Garland, a angry man, and his buddies, Ash, Jed, and then maybe there are other characters, who's to say. But the game opens with Jack Final Fantasy, Jack Garland in a field, and I believe, does My Way play immediately? Frank Sinatra's My Way? I think it's in the first cutscene, right?
Yes. God, what to say? So much is revealed about this product in this
Within
cutscene.
the opening shot.
Yeah. The thing I want to emphasize here, there's two things I want to emphasize. One, my spouse hates Frank Sinatra with a burning passion that it frightens me at times. Like
Really?
any time, yeah.
Like cherished New Jerseyite.
Why does she hate old Blue Eyes?
How to put this? She grew up in a house with a blended family and remarried parents, and one of those parents, it was a CEO of a defense contractor, and he liked to put on some Frankie when dinner was on. So her association with any Frank Sinatra is like semi-formal dinner event at dinner every night with like a glass of wine and a little bit of like Frank Sinatra. So it's visceral. So as soon as this game started teasing Frank Sinatra shit, like well before this game came out, she was already like hackles up. So I'm already fighting like a defensive effort here to get this game over. The second part is that I would like to emphasize is they use Frank Sinatra here. The song cuts off at like basically fair use length. In this opening instance of this man standing in a field, like you get the first, let's call it 3 lines of this song. Like you don't get to the My Way refrain. You don't get to anything. It just cuts off. It seems busted. When that did that in the demo, I was like, okay, they're just holding off. This is going to be a fuller cutscene when this like game comes out. Nope. No. That's just how it is.
Yes.
And I can't believe that made it to a disc in that form.
It is
fun.
Jack in a field, My Way starts playing, smash cut to him, like you have to do the tutorial, and then smash cut to him meeting Jed and Ash. They talk one time. They say, "Oh, we can't talk to the king of Corneria until we Cornelia, whatever."
It's still World A from
Corneria.
Final Fantasy 1.
Yeah, they can't talk to him without proving themselves, and so they're like, "Oh, I guess we need to go kill some monsters." They get on a boat, and then the next cutscene is them coming back on the boat. We don't see any of what happens there. And then you go talk to the king and get your mission to go to the Chaos Shrine. So, like, it fast forwards through so much setup and world building. And these characters, like, they come back wounded, and we don't discuss why they've got cuts. It's
One
great.
quick thing that I think is a fun fact that I experienced because I am streaming this game. This game makes you read a massive NDA about, yo, don't stream the part with Frank Sinatra. We can't help you on Twitch if you get a DMCA violation. Like, it makes you read this long EULA. Like, hey, we use licensed music. You will get in trouble if you stream these parts of the game, which actually it surfaced another scene near the end of the game, which they probably shouldn't have put on that, but they kind of have to. But yeah, it makes you read this massive NDA that basically explains how, yeah, you don't stream that scene. So I actually had to frantically skip that scene and then rewatch it later. But it's bizarre. It's a mishmash. It's a mishmash of, I see what they're doing, but also this does not work, like, at all. At fucking all. Like, in terms of setting the tone for the game, I guess it's like a partial success. But in terms of framing these characters and like where we are, like it's just a mess.
I think if they had pulled it longer, right? Like you teased out, it's very discordant and weird, and it kind of, I guess, sets you into a like, this game is going to do discordant, weird shit, I guess, and then it kind of doesn't. But if this had been tangent, I've been watching Umbrella Academy with my wife, and that show seems fine. But like at the end, let's say at like the 90% mark of every one of those episodes, it turns briefly into a music video. It's the My Chemical Romance man who wrote that comic. So like they just go to like, you know, sad montage or fight scene, but there's some licensed track. If they'd kind of done that trick with the Frank Sinatra, I think it might have hit different. But teasing out, again, like the first 29.9 seconds of this song at the intro just seemed broken. Like it just feels like a bad editorial choice to me.
Just in terms of like giving you a sense of place or who these characters are, like it's a complete failure in that regard. Because I just start playing this game and it's like, I guess these characters just move forward and punch things in the face until they're dead. But otherwise, like, I don't know where the fuck we are. I don't know why we're here. I don't know why we're doing any of this. This is just a mess.
Yeah, worth noting, before that cutscene plays, it gives you like an in medias res fight.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
You fight Tiamat.
Yeah.
With Ash and Jed, and then after you win the fight, you just wake up in a field and My Way plays.
So, 2 notes.
Correct.
About my experience with this game in general. First, this is going to wind up being the first one of these that I beat. And basically the first one I played. By these, I mean Souls-like games. I played the first 20 or 30 minutes of Demon's Souls on a PlayStation 3 like a decade ago, and that is it. So
Good
this
choice.
is me kind of going through one of these the first time. I'll reserve my opinions for whether or not that's a good way to learn about this mode of game till we like finish talking about it, I guess. Second, this is also weird because this is maybe the first game I've ever consciously decided I'm just going to play on the easy difficulty all the way through. We talked a lot about doing that in Lightning Returns. That's a game that's very doable. It is less that I am incapable of beating video games anymore and more like I'm literally just here to see the dumb plot stuff. And beating my head against any part of this game is not what I would consider necessarily fun. I also don't think that this is like a very representative game of what like Dark Souls is like.
No, I don't think
which
it's
seems
even
like a very fixed difficulty, harder thing. This seems like it's got like I played through that whole demo on the default difficulty and it's very doable. I would say that if you are inexperienced with these games, you could probably do it on normal. But let me tell you, on easy, it is piss easy. This is an eminently beatable thing. So if you are a fan of this series and you're like, yeah, but I don't know about Dark Souls like stuff because they seem like they're hard, they've done a very good job with the difficulty options here.
Yeah, and I don't know that I would even call this a soul. Like, it's got some Soulsy stuff in that if you go to a save point and you rest, stuff respawns.
Yeah,
but
the roll has iframes.
Yes,
right?
the roll has iframes. you save at cubes. Cubes here.
Cubes. I see some cubes.
Cubes.
I think I see some cubes up there.
Go touch the
Are those
cubes.
cubes?
Jet cubes.
We should take a rest.
Yeah, might as well take a rest here.
Anyways,
Cubes.
one thing I ended up giving, just for pure experimental purposes, I think Gino even saw this. I played an entire mission on the easy mode, and even I, as a newcomer, or not necessarily I shouldn't say a newcomer, but as someone who does not like Souls games, I did the entire mission with the first one with Captain BK, where you're beating him up and exploring his pirate den, and it made me realize that the easy mode for this game is interesting and worth remarking upon because it essentially turns this game into a Muso in that all of the enemies basically go down in 1 or 2 hits. it disables the unblockable moves, so everything you can block, and it just turns it into this being from Team Ninja, it reminded me of Hyrule Warriors and just like certain parts of Dissidia, in that this is just a button masher. I should basically be playing Dynasty Warriors. And that's not to denigrate it. I think it's interesting. That's an approach to making a Souls game more approachable, is to just ratchet up the Muso aspect of it. I kind of wish there was like a mid between normal difficulty and hard, or like normal difficulty and casual. I wish there were more difficulty options here, because I think that the default difficulty, it starts off pretty hard for people who are not huge fans of Souls games, and then it falls off the face of a cliff for reasons that we'll talk about later. But I didn't feel comfortable playing casual, and there was a good portion of this game where I didn't feel comfortable playing it on normal. And I'll say my relationship to Souls. So I have an on-again, off-again relationship with this entire franchise, in that I respect what they do. I respect what From has done in terms of making games that are deliberately for an audience, and their audience in particular, and then just don't waver. Like, I think the same thing you could say about Supergiant Games or Tim Schafer making games in a specific style or aesthetic. If you're going to praise those two examples, then you have to praise From for remaining committed to a group that has really been enjoying a treasure trove of quality, big, massive, ambitious games and titles. I tried Kingsfield, and you can really trace back the lineage of this subgenre even beyond Demon Souls to like Kingsfield, and like fell off of it after an hour. In terms of games that I've played, I played Demon Souls 1 and 2, and then basically reached the conclusion that this is just not for me. And then obviously rejoined for Elden Ring, but like also still just like, this is not for me. And I look at the Souls franchise objectively. I think that it plays a particular type and style, and there are ideas within this genre that I think, in terms of just giving the player feedback and input and guiding them through in terms of just being aware of their surroundings and how to move forward, like incredibly praiseworthy in that regard. But they're just not for me. They've never been for me, and that's totally fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah. So as I was saying earlier, I don't know how much I would call this game actually a Souls game. Because other than enemies respawning after cubes, there's not actually that much punishment for dying. You get experience like a normal RPG. Every time you kill an enemy, you get experience. That experience stays with you. You don't spend it down in the way that Souls does. You also don't have like one resource that you spend to level up, which is souls, or I forget what the equivalent is in Bloodborne. It's always I think it's money and Sekiro. Like, there's usually one resource, and that resource needs to be spent on all your upgrades and also on your level ups and also on buying items. Like, you've got this one pool, and every time you die, you drop your pool of resource that you have to go fight your way back to your corpse so you can get your resource back. That is not how this game plays. When you kill things, there's actually a job system in this game. Depending on what weapon you have, you can be one of several jobs, iconic Final Fantasy jobs, start showing up after the first tier of jobs. So like the lowest tier jobs are more generic. So like you've got Duelist, which is your fist weapon. You've got, I forget what the dagger class is, but there's a dagger class, there's a sword class, there's a sword and shield class, there's a magic class, which I think is just generic mage. Yes. And once you level up those jobs enough, you unlock the advanced jobs. So like mage will unlock white mage and black mage. Duelist will unlock monk and I want to say thief.
Yeah, it's thief.
Thief, yeah. So the dagger class will unlock thief and another job, right? So like you've got these mix of jobs that you can unlock. And then once you get to the advanced ones, each of those advanced jobs comes with a active ability you can activate that will kind of be equipable across jobs. So like Thief will unlock Flee, which is a ability that makes your character faster and have, I think, quicker. Basically your character becomes quicker in a number of ways. You can parry more frequently, you can dodge better, all that sort of stuff. Black Mage gets a spell that you can cast even when you're not a Black Mage. You also get different job abilities when those jobs are equipped. So like Black Mages can cast magic, black magic that deals damage and elemental damage. White Mages cast white magic spells and buffs, et cetera, right? You're unlocking jobs. And you can have up to 2 jobs equipped at once, and you can switch between them with the triangle button on a PlayStation controller. So depending on which jobs you have equipped, you will get experience towards them when you get kills. And that just goes into a pool. And every time that job levels up, you get another point to go down a skill tree. And it's pretty linear. It's a tree, but, once you upgrade a job fully, you don't need to use that job anymore necessarily. Like, all those passive abilities will apply kind of across whatever jobs you use going forward. So I think Thief gets like critical hit buffs, and those critical hit buffs will apply if you're the Thief or other jobs, which is cool.
I kind of wish they and this is probably written somewhere, so shame on me, but it wasn't entirely clear to me at first if the passives were for lack of a better word, fixed like across all the classes, I guess. It turns out they definitely are. But I was kind of operating, I guess, like intuitively it made no sense after points. Like, okay, like why would I stick with these lower classes that have like, plus 10 to my crit for argument's sake, when I'm going to wind up with all these different, like, it seems kind of dumb to cling to your basic, not Thief equivalent when they're going to get replaced. Turns out they all just stack, like everything just stacks.
Yeah, you want to max out everything if you want the best version of Jack Final Fantasy.
Yeah, max and then just immediately dump like as quick as you can, because otherwise, well, you would think that everything kind of gets pissed into the sand at that point in terms of like experience. But I've noticed that my classes that I'm not playing as will also be gaining experience occasionally.
Yeah, so
and I
how
think
that
that's
works
based on your gear.
It's a little bit. So it's your job affinity. So every job, you can have affinity for those jobs.
Yes.
And those
your gear has affinities stacked on it. Right?
Yes. So the lower level, the jobs will have on their tree like job affinity plus 15%, job affinity plus 25%. Once you get those job affinities applied, even when you're not that job, if you have equipment that has job affinity for a given job, or you have those passives unlocked, a certain percentage of your XP will get applied to the jobs you are not equipped as. So like you'll get 100% on the job you are, and then maybe you'll get 15% on another job because you have 15% job affinity.
There are even affinity bonuses based off of the percentage that you have. I didn't think that they were that big of a deal, just to kind of highlight. Let's say you have the Lancer. If you only have like a 20 to 30% affinity, you're just getting like a buff to your HP and your agility. But if you can get it up to like 400%, it enables you to use all weapon abilities for the Lance. Or like at 200%, it means all of your side link attacks gain the guard attribute. So while you're attacking, you're also guarding simultaneously. I think the problem with this system is that the affinity system just is faffed about, and there's a lot of core mechanics in this game that the game does an absolute dog shit terrible job explaining, and this is maybe one of the most important ones where it does not properly scaffold towards at all. At all.
I mean, it doesn't. You learn this stuff through osmosis. It does not tell you very much, though. This will be happening for you, even if you don't understand what's going on, right? Like
it's also not ancillary in the fact that you don't need to invest in it, and this is a huge problem I have with this game overall. You don't need to invest in it, like almost most of the mechanics in this game. As long as you're just playing the game, you can virtually move forward no matter what. So, sure. Maybe you have like 400, 200% affinity, but if you had like 80 to 50%, you're still probably going to be able to play the game. And as long as you're like dodging and bobbing and weaving, you'll probably be fine.
Yeah, I don't think that you need to be super invested in any given affinity. I think that the affinity system is there to give. I mostly saw it as what jobs do I want to level up? while I'm running around the world, even if I don't have it equipped, right? Like, I wasn't doing it for the affinity bonuses for the most part. I was equipping stuff so that I could level up a job that I don't want to play as. White mage. Once I've unlocked the higher level mage jobs, I don't want to be a white mage, so I just equip stuff with affinity.
Can
et
we
cetera.
talk about, I guess, related to the affinity system? We have to talk about the inventory system in this game.
Oh, it's terrible.
This is
Please
one
explain.
of the worst I've
Awful.
ever seen.
Oh my god.
And it's simply a matter of it's an excess, basically, is the problem.
Mhm.
So that when one of the solutions you come up with in a way that would indicate to me that it came up pretty late in development, one of the things in this game is just a menu feature that is buried in the game options. That's just an automatically cull stuff from my inventory under a certain level. And it's not just a certain level. This menu to like cull items has like 18 options on it, basically. That's bad.
It's also
when that's like a
terrible
core mechanic
interface.
of the game.
The UI UX is awful.
Yeah. So
And
every character has, let's say, like 8 inventory slots or something close to that. You are receiving at any point, like I'm playing on easy, so I can only speak to my own experience, but the demo seemed pretty similar to this. Beating just mooks in the world will drop 2 or 3 different like hubcaps of Ventuzler and magical swords of etc. Your inventory has 600 slots in it. That inventory will fill in like 2 or 3 missions, like completely full.
correct.
And at that point, it just starts putting things into like storage for you somewhere else to go back in. It's in like the amount of inventory shit that this game asks you to, like, genuinely, I think expects you to be looking at to optimize builds is insane. Like it's a very poorly thought out thing. Very early on, I just started hitting the auto equip button.
Yep.
And just saying, fine, this is fine. Like, I'm playing this on easy. It doesn't particularly matter. But even when you start looking at, like, these pieces of equipment, like, the most useful thing it gives you are these, as you said, job affinity bonuses. Everything else is like, hey, you want, like, +1 to damage or +0.5 to magic
even
damage.
when you interact with the smithy mechanic, and I've been doing this on stream, like,
Yeah.
it's just such an incremental waste of your goddamn time. It's like, yes, I used all of these precious resources to move my magic resistance from 0.9% to 0.1.2%.
Yeah.
Cool. How amazing.
It's bonkers.
It's a terrible system. And on top of that, like, I can see what they were trying to do. This is something that they did really well in Nioh. It's kind of bizarre that they have this issue, but say what you will about the Souls game, but the scarcity of new weapons and items and resources where you actually need to go out and hunt things to get things to attach onto this or put a buff onto that means that upgrading your equipment feels of consequence. But when I did actually try to, I'm going to put all of this stuff, I'm going to max out the level to this sword, I'm going to put up all of these bonuses, and I took the time to do that. Within the next mission, within like 5 minutes, I got a loot drop with like 5 different things that were immediately better than this thing that I just spent all of the time fiddle fucking around in menus trying to upgrade.
Yep.
There's just too much here. And I think that this is just a sign that the game is kind of sort of collapses with underneath the weight of its own job system, because there are so many jobs that there are so many items it needs to provide to each of these jobs constantly, that you just got too much stuff to process. Like, the game has a real struggle processing all of its resources and, making each of these jobs feel like it has its own niche.
I mean, the jobs have their own niche. They do. Like, the way that a monk plays is significantly different than a thief, which is significantly different than a
I'm going to push back on that. There's only like 4 different permutations of every job. Like, a monk is very similar to a pugilist. The warrior and the knight are the swordsman, sword fighter. The mages all kind of play the same, and the lancer is virtually the same thing as the dragoon, which leads to the dark knight. There's really only 5 different classes. It's just this class now gets better at level 2, and then this class plays like this and it's way better. But like I would actually push back and say that there's like 4 or 5 permutations of the same jobs.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's different that the Lancer has a ranged attack that you can throw a lance at someone, and the Dragoon has a jump that makes you invincible for a short amount of time while you're in the air. Like one of them can do ranged combat, the other one can't.
Again, I think there's too many. There's just
Like-
too much in this game.
Playing on easy, they feel like they just kind of break into pretty basic, let's say kind of DPS, tank, caster sort of archetypes. They feel like when it comes down to like the samurai adjacent classes, like the combat definitely feels a little different, but functionally it's just like,
Sure.
okay, these are melee, but they're like slow melee versus like fast melee.
Absolutely.
Versus the like caster ones that have range. I think the way this all nets out for me, again, I'm playing on easy, but I've fiddled around on normal as well. I think like the skill floor for this game is very low insofar as this genre is concerned. I think if you were to be playing like for whatever reason at like high difficulty and trying to be very optimal, there's probably a reasonable skill ceiling here.
Yeah,
and
so
that shows up in the combat. Like there's, animation priority, and you can cancel out animations and like swap classes in between combos. And there's stuff in here that shows depth. And even fiddling around on easy, like you can just kind of mash your way through. But, I have a little Devil May Cry under my belt too. And so there's like, I don't know, a notion of like expressive gameplay or whatever. Like you can do cool stuff. And you can set up your combos such that like, oh, this kind of neatly builds up to this move, right? And then if I switch out of this animation and just switch classes immediately and then hit this thing, like, you can make your life as complicated as you want. On easy, the game doesn't really reward you for trying all that hard necessarily because everything just kind of dies.
If they melt in one hit, it doesn't matter if you're doing anything.
But if you want to have that experience, I think this game would probably have that, and that's probably where all the inventory faff comes in, but it's way too much. Specifically the inventory.
As the only person who actually played on a higher difficulty, I will say, I played
on normal.
So I played on normal with no armor the first time I played this game. I played a naked run.
All right.
That was the first time I beat it for charity, the community endurance run in April. With that, let me tell you, the inventory stuff doesn't matter because I broke it all down. But it does make the affinity system not work because the only thing I get affinity from is the weapon I'm holding in my hands. So that made leveling up a pain in the butt because I wasn't leveling any of the secondary jobs. I could only really level what I was equipped as. So that was its own level of weirdness. But let me tell you, like, playing in that way, I noticed the subtle differences between the Lancer and the Dragoon and all these different jobs because, like, I could not take very many hits. So I had to know that the lance has, X amount extra range than the sword or than the fists, and the difference between like hammering out the 3-hit combo versus the press and hold, like charge up attacks, like all those differences mattered a whole lot when I was like 1 or 2 hits away from dying at any given time. And the game also has it has weapon damage types as well. So like blunt damage versus slash damage versus stab damage. And that mattered too, because if you were hitting weaknesses, you would break enemies because enemies have a stagger meter and they have a health meter. If you break their stagger meter or their health, you can kill them. If you break the stagger meter, you do like a finishing move that turns them into crystals. And if you break their health, they just die normally. So like hitting for weakness was extra important. So, a pugilist, all the fist weapons do blunt damage. The swords do slash damage. The Lancer can do a mix. Like that was its kind of thing, was that it can do stabbing or slashing or blunt depending on how you hit someone with the lance. And so like knowing how to bounce between these jobs mattered a whole hell of a lot. And now I'm playing on hard with my latest run, and I'm noticing way more my ability to upgrade and level up other jobs than the one I'm equipped with matters a whole lot. Like I've noticed significant differences between playing some of the advanced jobs and some of the medium jobs. Like, Monk has the ability to heal itself. It's the only one of the melee classes that really does. So it gives you some nice utility in boss fights that you can, step away and start healing if you need to. I forget which job it is. I think it's the Marauder that has a passive ability, Blood Weapon, that lets you heal yourself as you damage enemies. So you can pop that and then go in and wade in and heal yourself so that you can kind of keep your health up while dealing damage. Like the Lancer can do a hell of a lot of damage from range, so it's a melee class that has a ranged option, which is super useful. Like, I've found utility in almost every class. I don't like Thief. That's one of the only jobs that I don't like.
I haven't unlocked Thief quite yet. I've been curious, but
well, my problem with Thief is twofold. One, Thief's whole thing is that it cares about stealing enemy jobs, because there are certain enemy attacks that have a purple text when they use them. If you parry those attacks, you get those attacks and can use them again, like a blue magic or something. And Thief's whole thing is focused around those abilities. So you get Steal, which lets you steal the ability without having to parry it. You just hit the enemy with Steal and you take their power, and then all the passives that the Thief has, passives for critting, passives for getting more drops, that's my real problem with Thief, is it gives you more drops.
Yeah, that
causes problem with the inventory.
Maybe I should have been thinking about that, building towards this class. I was like, you know what, I need more shit.
Yeah, and then the other passives are making the abilities you steal, either you steal more of them and they deal more damage and more stun when they're used on the enemy. So, like, it's cool that they went in all these different directions, and there's usually a reason to go down every tree, even if it's a job you don't plan on using, because the passives you unlock for that job, or the job-specific ability that you can take and port and use in other jobs is usually really powerful. For example, the Assassin, when you unlock it, it's a high-level job. You get Invisible, which makes it so that enemies don't target Jack as much. So they will go after your squad members instead of you more often.
Yeah.
Which, as an assassin, their whole thing is if you crit on enemies with back attacks, you can stack up hits on them, and then you press the assassinate button, which will do a hit for every crit you did, up to 20. It will do an unblockable attack. So,
or you could just do what I do, which is, what if you just played assassin and just punch them in the face until they're dead?
I mean, that works on some enemies, and then other enemies it will not work on, and then it's a bummer.
So, what class
ahead,
combinations have you been kind of rocking, Gino? Because that seems like the secret sauce, right? Is that's what this game has, is putting these Legos together.
Yeah, so the most messed up jobs that I found, and they are high level, it makes sense.
Sage.
Sage is messed up. It is the
Sage
white
looks
mage.
Messed up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the white mage, black mage
that.
evolved form. So you can do white magic and black magic. You have access to the full gamut of both. If you cast 3 white magics and 3 black magics, you unlock Ultima, which is the best spell in the game, and casting it will break most enemies in a single cast, bosses included.
With Sage, if you can also max out your affinity with Sage, potions also restore MP and refill your break gauge.
Yeah. Okay.
And
I just need to
and it increases your magic damage too.
Yeah. I really liked Assassin, and
yeah, that was what I was going to say.
I thought Assassin was good. And maybe Dragoon?
Dragoon's fun. So, Assassin, Invisible is broken. It's pretty darn strong. Just having the enemy not target the only character that matters is really powerful. And I found that using Invisible, getting behind someone, stacking up a ton of crits, Blood Weapon, which you get from Marauder, which is the low-level, axe weapon, axe class. Blood Weapon triggers off of any damage you do. So you can stack up all these hits with Assassin, trigger Blood Weapon, and then hit Assassinate, and you will fully heal yourself because all those unblockable hits will go through and heal you for every one of them. So, that's cool combo. Lancet from Dragoon is also pretty cool. If you deal weakness damage, you heal yourself. So it makes it so that if you've got the right weapon equipped, you're just going to be healing yourself every time you hit the opponent, or if you do elemental damage with magic, that also works. I like Ninja.
really also thought that White Mage was actually good because once you get that regen spell, fuck potions forever.
Yeah.
Rockin' Warrior White Mage for the time being until I get Sage unlocked. And man, that's a White Mage is pretty ballin' when you get it.
It's weird because when I first saw, oh my god, there's a White Mage. Why would I ever want to play a support class in a either Muso game or fucking Souls game? Because I remember playing a Archer Bowman in the Dynasty Warrior games and wanted to stab myself in the chest because it was awful.
Let me tell you, as a constant cleric in every tabletop role-playing game I've ever played, support classes rule.
Yeah, but the support classes in this game are good.
Yeah.
However, they complete lack of balance with some of the classes and what they are capable of doing with is a problem because this game just gets to the point to where once you find 3 or 4 classes that you enjoy or you feel like can beat the game, you basically can figure that out by the middle point or the midpoint of this game and be set.
Yeah.
And there's really no response the game has once you really master a class and it's like, yes, this can just destroy everything and I'm good.
I think it's suitably capstone-ish, like the advanced later classes you wind up in this game. Like it makes me it kind of puts the lie to the Souls part of this game, which we continue to poke at a little bit. Like, you know, I'm playing, again, kind of skewed being on easy, but I can't imagine once you have, like, you know, the Dark Knight unlocked and the Sage unlocked and just, like, dual wielding those two classes that this game can really throw much at you anymore. Like, you're just a paper shredder at that point.
That's and to me that is a sign that the end of this game was not something that they carefully planned for, because say what you will about traditional Souls game or From Software, but you feel like the difficulties curve is always there next to you rather than there's a gulf. There's a massive delta between me needing to scrounge kills and moving forward and like investing in mechanics versus I'm just going to keep moving forward. I'm just going to keep attacking.
I will say later bosses do require you to be more attentive.
Okay.
Not the fiends that we have gotten up to. Like, you will be able to house them very easily. I found that some of the last 2 or 3 bosses of this game kicked my ass despite me knowing what I was doing and having good stuff equipped in my first.
And I would just say that the problem with that is that as a result, I don't feel like the game's midpoint especially is a great on-ramp for you understanding core mechanics as a result, because you can just get away with slop. I actually thought the hardest bosses in this game were the early ones. Like that Garland boss battle is not a joke because you don't have a lot of the best classes and resources and you're just starting to get your feet wet. And then the first true battle with Tiamat actually kicked my butt just because it requires full investment and execution that, up to that point, I didn't feel like the game really required me to. But once I got beyond that and started putting points and, doing side quests, there are side quests in this game. It's crazy to think, but yes, there are side quests and they're not great, but they give you a lot of extra experience points and the ability to fill out classes even more. It's fine. It's just, again, I feel like the game starts to buckle under the weight of all of these classes to where there's just not the proper balance with everything.
Yeah, I would say that you definitely, in the mid-game, you will outstrip some of the enemies if you unlock the higher level jobs. As soon as you unlock the higher level jobs, and especially if you know what you're doing with like Invisible, Assassinate, Ultima, like there are Zantetsuken, if you unlock the Breaker class, like you do a ton of poise damage to your enemies. Like there's a bunch of classes that will house the mid-game that if you don't then clean your shit up when you get into the late game, it can be a problem. Though I bet it's not if you play on easy.
I will say, though, that there is a sense of discovery with each of these classes. Like, yeah. And thank merciful Christ, there's that anima system, because when I did get to like a class like Warrior or Knight, and it's like, I don't like how this controls. This is too slow. I hate this. It's like, I'm just going to pop 5 crystals and get the classes or abilities and affinities that I want out of it. God, I love the anima system.
Yeah,
so
you can opt out of a lot of grind in this game, basically just through that alone.
And the anima system
cool.
is you've got these crystals that basically just give you experience, and you'll get them basically every time you reach a checkpoint in a level. When you beat a level, you'll get them. If you break down your accessory items, they'll give you anima.
Just accessories, though.
Yep. So like that's your way of kind of getting around the jobs that you don't want to use, on top of the affinity system that we already talked about. So like there's a bunch of ways you can level up Jack's classes that you don't like playing, which I think it leads to a pretty smooth experience for like getting to the jobs you like and focusing more on them. And it's also worth saying that like the jobs that you unlock, even if they don't have abilities you want, you've got these combo moves that you can unlock that as you unlock the jobs that use a given weapon, they will give you a combo move for that weapon, usually at least 1 or 2, that will be stronger than the default combo attack. So combo moves, they're basically abilities that you hit on, I think, R2 on a PlayStation controller, and they'll usually consume 1 or 2 bars of MP, and they'll do like a big hitting move, like, you know, Punch Rush is a 3-hit punch combo that deals a ton of stagger. But as you kind of unlock these different jobs that use the fist weapons, you'll unlock better and better combos that you can slot into like different combo strings that your character can pull off. So like there's one attack that, you know, you press the attack button once and then the combo button and it'll do it. Then there's one that's like press and hold and then hit the combo button and it'll do it. So you can unlock these moves that later on will just do crazy amounts of stagger. Like I unlocked one with a ninja where you hit them once and then you hit the combo button and you kick them up into the air, chase them up into the air, and then Azuna drop them, which is sick. You've got one with assassin where you jump in the air and do a giant spiraling kick that will hit everyone around you. Like there's one you can get with, I think, monk, where it's called takedown, where you throw your fists up in front of you, you charge at them, and then you do a tackle that hits an AoE. Like there's some nice complexity to the combat that you might not otherwise see.
Sure. My only problem is that unlocking the new abilities and then equipping them sucks shit, because the menu of customizing each class's abilities is terrible. I hate it. Oh, it's just like, oh, I got a new ability. Now I need to go through and find it in the list of all of the abilities and put it into the left, right. Oh, we should mention this. Which platform of choice did we play this game, and what kind of control setup did you have? Let's go to Gino.
I played it on a PlayStation 5 on the default controller setup.
Jeff?
I'm playing on an Xbox Series X with the default control setup. It's a pretty good version of the game. No
Hey,
complaints.
Chris, what did you play?
I played it on a PC with a mouse and keyboard control.
Why?
Oh.
You poor hands.
So yeah, I keep complaining about this, but like run is alt and dodge is control, and so my pinky and thumbs have been constantly in pain. There is a way for you to play this game without the mouse, and it's pure keyboard controls, and it's kind of like Lightning Returns, where WASD is one analog stick, I, J, K, L are the other analog stick, and I just can't fuck with that. But
Weird.
The ability, the special ability thing where you just turn everything into a crystal is spacebar. So like dodge and spacebar have been really hard for me to do. On top of just having my other hand usually dedicated to a mouse.
Okay, so I feel like this is a question that I'm sure the listeners would ask, because this always comes up with one of these games where it's an action game and you insist on playing with the mouse and keyboard. Is there a reason why you opt in for the mouse and keyboard controls over a controller setup, or are you just testing, to see if the game accommodates people who don't have a controller?
I do believe that games should accommodate for a mouse and keyboard setup just for accessibility reasons. You can't assume that everyone playing on a PC is going to have a controller that they can immediately plug in. Like for the Xbox controller, I've got the right dongle, but as Jeff can attest, like the number of dongles for the Xbox Series X controllers that actually work are fucking like 1% chance of getting it right on Amazon unless you know what you're doing.
That marketplace got unfortunately flooded by a lot of very shitty clones from Southeast China.
Personally, I just don't like the feel of controllers in my hands and prefer a mouse and keyboard setup for like just my hands in particular. And also, I just don't like Rumble. I hate Rumble. It doesn't feel good in my hands. It actually causes it causes my hands to hurt. And I realize haptic feedback is something that you can sometimes turn off, but not for every game.
Yeah. Okay.
But
so I just wanted to give that context.
That said, this leads us to the other problem, the fundamental problem I have with this game. This game runs like dog shit.
On PC.
No, not necessarily. At launch, it also had issues on most of the major consoles. So the game has major performance issues. I also think this game just looks terrible in certain spots. So I looked it up. Apparently, so the hair uses Tress Effect technology, which you might recall when Lara Croft's Tomb Raider was an IP and Crystal Dynamics was a part of Square Enix. They touted like the realistic movement of hair. So for certain models, for singular regular enemies, the geometry can be about 30 megabytes. Stop and think about that. So a lot of the models in the game are unoptimized, and the shaders and the hair effects cause a single enemy to be 30 megabytes for a single part of their body.
That's a lot of things to have in RAM.
One of the quick things to do, one of the most popular mods on PC is to make everyone bald. So is that you don't have the unoptimized hair. And also, yeah, it's just there's a lot of slowdown. It's not a great version of the game. It has frame rate issues. It slows down whenever you perform a final move. And it's not a good version of the game. But it also apparently, like the Xbox Series X and even the PS5 versions have issues from time to time. Like I feel like even looking at archives of the PS5 and Xbox Series XS, that the frame rate is unstable on everything.
I did not have any problems with frame rate. I don't know. Jeff, did you?
The only dip I see is occasionally when you're doing the like slam circle to execute this thing, you'll get like a brief little slowdown, but it kind of picks right back up after that. That's the only thing I've noticed. That's not me saying that game looks great all the time.
No, it's a hideous game. Sure.
Yeah, it's kind of for similar reasons that Lightning Returns sometimes looks kind of hideous. Like everyone's got a very plasticky kind of look to them, I suppose.
Sure.
Oh yeah, the NPC character models are terrible. Oh my god. Whenever people talk and they're trying to be like emotional and it's just the same dead eyes, it looks like I'm watching Polar Express. It's like the same dead eyes, like stoic face, and it's like, my farm, it's been destroyed by the chaos, and it's just blap blap blap. Ugh. The environments are good. The variety of like the actual like the tie-ins to other Final Fantasy games, I think those are fine. I just wish it wasn't just a bunch of linear corridors most of the time. But yeah, the game's not a looker.
So I think let's turn our attention to that story and stuff, because I think we've done the combat a big we've gone as in depth as we can there. So you go to Corneria, you say, hey, let's go to the Chaos Shrine. We're going to save the world. You meet Princess Sarah. The king gives you a mission. You can talk to these NPCs, Sarah and her sister, and the king and the chancellor. They have like one or two things to say, and that's it. You can also, on the main map, you can go talk to characters who live in Corneria.
Talk to characters in the same, underneath the smithy. You can talk to the same collection of characters and see, hey, what did you think about this cool thing that I did? And they're like, Jack, you're amazing. Or, Jack, I'm worried about you being corrupted by chaos. And it's just, it's surrealist art.
It's like such a terrible way to implement this thing. It's so goddamn bad. Like, you can see where the money went, right? Or like the time, like
Yes, it did not go to the NPC
I would be shocked if this game had more than 2.5 years to make. I would be shocked if this game was like, this was clearly not a priority for Team Ninja or Square Enix, even though like Nomura made it very clear that this was a passion project of his. But I have a feeling this game was made pretty journeyman-like.
Yes, and I think that it's also very clear that the dialogue with the NPCs is a third, fourth thought. It's not even a second thought. Like, they have 1 or 2 lines. The lines are throwaway at best. They don't really even give you that much sense of a world, because the world is just a map that you pick, the next location you're going to go.
Which makes, and as you get closer to the end, which makes the decision to put almost all of the story near the end of the game simply bizarre, because there are just these large swaths of the game where it's like just moving forward, just killing fiends, just killing randos. That said, there's a lot of talking in this game. I remember Jeff said when we were playing Lightning Returns, it's like, holy shit, is there a way for you to turn off hope? It's like, holy shit, could you just not make Ash and Jed and Neon say the same fucking 4 or 5 things when you find a treasure chest? Like, God, Jesus.
They are expressive.
They are. So first mission, you go to the Chaos Shrine, you defeat Garland from Final Fantasy 1. And after you defeat Garland, it is revealed that Garland was Neon, like trapped in some sort of curse. Neon is a young woman in a sailor outfit. Now you've got the 4 Warriors of Light, and you start going out on missions. After you defeat the Chaos Shrine, your next mission is to go find Pirate Captain Bikke to find out where you need to go next. And this is the point, the second level is the point at which the faithful retelling of Final Fantasy 1 gets extra weird. I mean, even weirder than the fact that you start with 3 characters who all have dark crystals instead of regular crystals, and everyone's dressed like, I don't know, they went to H&M and picked up the latest stuff. And also, after you defeat Neon, she starts telling Jack something, and then he puts an earbud in his ear and says bullshit, and then plays Limp Bizkit. That happens.
Starting with the showstopper.
Yes. And so the second level, Captain Bikke's level, it says at the loading screen that this location was taken from Dimension 14 because it is a reimagining of a Final Fantasy 14 level that has a pirate. It's like a pirate cave in 14. And this level's been basically repurposed into this game. And at this point on, you notice that every level in the game is a reimagining of a different Final Fantasy game level. There's at least one level from every numbered game up to 15 in this, which I think is pretty cool. I thought that the reimaginings were one of the cooler parts of this game, like going, okay, what level are you going to take from 7? What level are you going to take from 3? And seeing those reimaginings and how they repurpose enemies, repurpose locations. And you could see that this game is more an homage to the whole series than just a reimagining of 1.
Yeah. And they kept that
Sure.
under wraps. Like,
Yeah.
I was genuinely surprised. Like, this game has the fucking Tomb of, like, Wraithwall with Final Fantasy 12 music, and you go to Mount freaking Gagazet.
Yep.
And, that wasn't blown at any point, even for me, like months after it came out. I was genuinely impressed. And I guess it's because it's maybe not the most consequential part of this game necessarily, but again, just based on what this project has kind of been about, and 35th anniversary of series happening, it's kind of neat to have like a little stroll through time, I guess. Like, there's a Final Fantasy II level, and it's just kind of the last castle that you go through, and it kind of sucks. It feels like a Souls level. I feel like every time I watch people playing a Dark Souls game, it just looks like someone running around on roofs and parts of geometry they're not supposed to be on.
That Final Fantasy II castle definitely felt like Anne Orlando in Dark Souls 1.
Yeah, Pandemonium is really the most Soulsy that this game gets. It's also the one with the most backtracking where shortcuts actually matter.
So I like the levels. I like how they tie into the Final Fantasy stuff. I think the level design in this game is really wanting, especially like I like the Mount Gagazet, but you really do spend a lot of that just moving in a linear path forward with a few bespoke pathways to the left and right for you to open up treasure chests. But there are a lot of levels here that just aren't great. The Final Fantasy 12 level is atrocious.
Which one? There's two.
The Wraithwall one.
Wraithwall one with like you needing to like go to like an geometric designs lower and lower and trying to find pathways to find the deepest chamber of it. I just didn't like that. I feel like there are a lot of times where the pathways aren't very easy to tell apart from the rest of the foreground or background.
Yeah, I wish there was a map. I wish the game had a mini map.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something.
And if this game's not going to be fully a Souls game, then I would have killed for a mini map. I would have killed for a quest log. And the times when they give you a quest marker saying, here's the next set of cubes, and then that quest marker disappears because you found the cubes, and it's like, well, what am I doing next? It's like, well, just keep exploring, buddy. Like, great, I guess. Cool.
I really appreciated that for most of the levels, they didn't just make it look like they had iconic locations from the specific Final Fantasy setups, right? Like Mount Gagazet, it's not just Mount Gagazet, which is just like a snowy mountain. You've got the spot where you fight Seymour in Mount Gagazet, kind of recreated faithfully.
Seymour Flux.
Yeah, you've got the little chambers where Waka, Titus, and Riku, like you have to swim into little circles so that you can activate this wall. Like you've got that reproduced. When you do Wraithwall's Tomb, there's callbacks to the demon walls. You fight these walls that will push you down a hole if you don't break them fast enough. Pandemonium, I think, is just a very cool layout. I think, the levels that come from games before they had 3D, really there was more freedom for what those could look like because there were not original kind of maps to base off of all that much other than the music and kind of the color palette. I like that in the 9 level, you've got, the logs full of water that fully heal you. You've got kind of a section where you kind of go off to the side and you can look and see the next spot you're going to go to, which is like 9 has that same vista. But then some of the levels are more generic and I don't think pop as much. Like the 8 level where you fight Merilith of the 4 fiends. That level, I mean, the Fire Cavern is one of the least impactful levels in FF8, and it's one of the shortest, so
goddamn,
we
should have gone to space, Gino. We should have gone to space, Jeff.
I mean, they already put you in space at a certain point in this game. Like, they've already done it. Early. Yeah, like
weird
blowing the wad stuff in this game.
Also, I just want to say that the Final Fantasy VII level, while I think is good, it's very clear that, they just used the 7 remake level design models and then pasted them into this game to cut a cost, let's just say.
Yeah, there's some, you'll see, Jeff, when you get to that, but I think that a lot of the callbacks I think work, and it is funny to see Jack and the other characters. So like at the beginning of the level, there's this kind of on the loading screen it tells you what level this came from, kind of what game it came from, what it's supposed to be about, and then Jack and his friends just never seem to comment on how this stuff is super weird. Like when they go to space, they look outside and they're like, "Wow, we're really high up. That's weird." Yeah. And Jack's like, "Don't worry about it." Or like you find the Faith on Mount Gagazet, and they're like, what happened to these people? They're turned to stone, but they look like they're dreaming. And Jack's like, who fucking cares? We need to kill chaos. So like basically everyone around Jack is trying to question what's going on and why the world seems to be so disparate, right? Like none of these areas seem to link up to one another in cogent ways. And his maniacal drive to kill chaos is kind of a yada yada on all of this stuff that I found kind of endearing. Like everyone has questions about what's going on and Jack just won't entertain any of them. And as you beat bosses, more and more questions arise. So, like, you beat Captain Bickey, he sends you to fight to meet a dark elf. The dark elf, Astos, basically tells you, okay, the next move you need to do is kill these fiends. When you get sent off, the next fiend you have to fight, first fiend you have to fight is Tiamat. You go to fight Tiamat, you see the versions of Jack, Jed, and Ash that happen in the prologue. You see them get beaten by a Tiamat, and then Jack remembers getting beaten by Tiamat and basically saves the team this second time through, which raises the question of, like, there's loops going on here, aren't there? These same characters have fought these same bosses over and over and over again, huh? Weird. Once you defeat Tiamat, Sophia, the fifth warrior of light, is freed. She's a pretty lady, and she's your, like, caster character who joins your squad. You then get a choice of going to the Earth Crystal or the Fire Crystal. You can do those in any order, and it's kind of annoying that also in this section of the game, because you can go in either order, they made it so that the equipment that's dropped between these levels is the same level cap. So you will not get better equipment from the third fiend. You'll get the same equipment from the second fiend and the third fiend. They'll all be the same level. So you feel like you get almost no progression for those two, whereas everything else is a little bit more difficult than the thing that came before it. And we get, like, every time you beat a boss, a wave of darkness emanates from the boss and gets captured in someone's crystal. And there's usually a flashback accompanied with that. Sometimes you'll also see strangers who are killed before, like visions of strangers who have been there before, and they'll kind of expound something kind of story related. So did either of you get any of the Lufenian logs?
I've picked up like 2 of them. And I've glanced at what they said, and I don't have enough of a picture to, like, totally grasp what the fuck they're going for. But I've got an educated guess.
I've been picking them up, but I don't read them.
Okay, so Jeff, since you're actually reading the story bits, what do you think's going on here?
Okay, I've not looked this up, so I'm gonna just drop some theory
wait,
here.
No, the Lufenian logs. Yes, I have been reading these. I have a thing that I will say after you guys, play past the pudding for a bit.
What? Why do you have to say it? Why do you have to make it weird? Go ahead, Jeff.
Because I think I know what happens at the end of this game. Anyway, I think this is some sort of sim, right? I think this is basically Metal Gear Solid 2. If that makes any sense. They're training Zack. They're training Jack to become a new Garland, basically, to become Chaos, and he's unaware that he's in a sim, but he's kind of aware. I've not got it all pieced together, but I think it's something along those lines, because there's, like, the way they're describing these worlds are these kind of, like, culled from different dimensions, and there's all sorts of, like, for lack of a better word, like, digital artifacting that happens around when things occasionally die, and computers fucking everywhere that no one really remarks upon. So this is a simulation. It's meta, which is fitting for the game. That's my educated guess.
Okay, ZP, what do you think?
So I started playing this game, and as I got closer to the end of the game and started reading stuff more, I had this weird hunch, like, wait, this story seems familiar. Like, I've experienced this story before. So I ended up looking up the writer for this game, and I discovered that the primary script writer for this game, or the lead scenario writer for this game, was a gentleman by the name of Kazushi Nojima. And I kept reading his... He's been the lead scriptwriter or scenario writer for Square dating all the way back to 1988. The first time that he directed a game was Bahamut Lagoon, and he's just stuck around. He's a part of like the old guard that didn't get purged when, they decided to make a movie. But he's the scenario writer for the Kingdom Hearts franchise. He's the scenario writer for A1, Mobius Final Fantasy. And then I realized, I put it together. This is the story of Mobius Final Fantasy. This is 100%. They recycled the story of Mobius Final Fantasy. And I went through the story of this game. I actually read it. I will not spoil it. And then I reread the story from Mobius Final Fantasy. And yeah, dude, this is literally the plot of Mobius Final Fantasy. So I guess, Gino, how's it feel to have Mobius Final Fantasy back inside you, like back inside your life when you least expect it?
I like that it plays like this instead of how Mobius played.
Sure. Okay. But
I
have something that I will do during the next episode, which I think we're going to finish this game. I want to say one of my favorite things about this game and the story is that I've put in 25 hours and it feels like 5. Like this game respects your time. I really do believe that the best thing that I can say about this game, even though it seems like I'm the most negative about this game, is I like the job system. I like the pace of it. I like it when it's a goofy story vehicle, but it respects your time and it feels brisk. And the story, I wish there was more after the start where you just get the Sinatra stuff and then the Limp Bizkit stuff, but it's not until like the last 2 acts of the game when the story actually becomes a focal point. It's just a lot of talking and it's just a lot of weird visuals and it's just a lot of bizarre stuff. It's like they're jingling plastic keys in front of a baby. Just as like, hey, remember this Final Fantasy game? Oh, look at this one. You like this one, right? I just wish there was more to the story. I wish that knowing as someone who watched your playthrough, Gino, during the endurance run, knowing what this game is trying to build towards, I wish there was more to it. I'm kind of shocked that there's not more to it because they really did just let Nomura go ham. They really did. And we've said a lot about Nomura and the Nomura era of Square, but like, if this is what I get out of Untapped Nomura, like, this is like the end result of a passion project that he's wanted to do for years. Like, more of this, please. This, or just continue to run Kingdom Hearts directly into the ground, because I could give 2 fucks about like the Disney franchise and how it communicates with Square. Like, just run that shit straight to the ground. But
yeah, I guess for my part, I think I'm kind of. I think I know what this game is, and I think I know how I feel about it. And I think critically, it's fine. It has like enough.
It's fine.
Cheap, busted, kind of wrong, janky shit around it to not be like, this is great. It's fantastic. 10 on 10 or whatever.
Yeah, this is
it's
above mid. It's above mid.
It is above replacement.
It's the definition for me. Like, if I were to ever write it, this is the definition of a B- game.
Yeah, but as a weird thing that they made and put the name Final Fantasy on and then released on every major platform that is out, bar the Switch, that's awesome. I hope they make 100 of these, right? Like make this make this launch 1,000 ships of weird shit, right? We get a mainline Final Fantasy coming up next year. Hopefully that's fine.
Everything
make one of those
like that. It seems like they're really going in. They're really going hard, right?
Yeah. But they make one of those every like 6 to 10 years now, and they've got to pad these out, right? And if they start filling in the gaps with weird genre exercises like this and interesting partnerships, as opposed to, I don't know, NFTs
and pixel remasters.
Yeah, and those
they're good, but I just mean like, you can make things in addition to remasters of Chrono Cross or pixel remasters.
Yeah, like you can tell new stories basically.
That new Theatrhythm game's coming out, Jeff.
I know. I'm speaking
Looking
of
forward to
passing the
that.
put. Anyway,
Yeah, I think that this is like the definition of like a transitional game between big releases, right? Like it's fun. There's
Yeah,
not
that's
a
the
lot
thing is, like,
there.
It's fun. It is fun to play, and that goes a
I just-
long ass way.
I just wish that, especially with the chunk that we played for this podcast, I just wish there was more meat on the bone. Like, you really don't get a lot out of the first half of this game. Like, you have to read these journal entries. You have to
Yeah.
fucking. Can we talk about how you have to like actually pay attention to the menus in this game?
Yeah. Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
awful.
I
That's
mean,
Those
the-
loading
awful.
screens.
the
The
plot
loading
in this
screens tell
game
you.
is conveyed in like generously 30 to 60-second cutscenes before and after each one of these missions, the mainline ones.
And I know
Optional hidden journal entries that are buried in levels you need to kind of really poke around to find, and then each of which are 1 or 2 paragraphs, by the way, and then 1 or 2 paragraphs of descriptive text on consoles that load these levels in seconds. Right?
and then
That's
like
where the story is.
the other thing is there's just not a lot of variety to this game. There's like 5 enemy types.
Yeah.
There's like
There's
Yeah.
5. And so you see the same animations when you do those special moves, and it's like, ah, man. It's like I've seen this even with those elementals. I've seen the whole animation of like taking the orb that they sit on and smashing it into their face so many times that I just get tired. I just wish there was more.
Yeah, and goblins, bombs, like you will do the finishing move, the dark glowing anuses on the walls that you need to kill, like all of those things you will kill so many times. And when the game starts throwing new enemies at you, it is refreshing. They tend to be more dangerous than the other ones, but outside of the bosses, you eventually learn the patterns of these enemy types, and you'll just be killing. They'll occasionally get new moves, but not many. So you know how to kill. If you've killed the first bat, you know how to kill the last bat. And you will fight a bat of some kind in just about every level. So yeah,
I
mean,
just wish there was a little bit more bearing in each game. Like I wish there was like a Final Fantasy 1 enemy in the Final Fantasy 1 level, and you only saw it in the 1 level and the 2 level and the 3 level. I wish there was just a little bit more personalization.
yeah, you get some iconics sometimes in bosses, but they're usually bosses that are themed after bosses from FF1 rather than, bosses that are themed after
There's
the rest of-
reason for that.
Yes. But the enemies, like, I guess there's the wolves that are kind of like an FF10 boss, and you fight more of them on Mount Gagazet. You fight the iconics, like your cactars and your tonberries. They're around, and they'll mess you up if
Yeah,
you
the
don't
tonberries
do it right.
will mess you up if you're not careful. And there's a lot of side quests that's like kill 3 tonberries. Like, fuck.
I enjoyed fighting robots. That was very funny to me. Robots that basically have your jobs.
Did you notice that when you fight non-human enemies, they break apart and you kind of like get really creative animations, but when you fight the pirates or anything that's a human, like it doesn't break apart their body. It's like the same, like crystal, boom, because they didn't want that rated AO.
Yeah, you can't crystallize humans. You can crystallize robots and goblins, but no humans. Because Jack Final Fantasy, he's a man with a cause and a code.
Conscience.
Yep. But
Is
yeah,
this winds up being, I guess, minor spoiler here. This beats Final Fantasy 16 based on the ESRB thing that came out to being the first Final Fantasy that says fuck. And I thought that was tremendous when it happened.
that was one of the best moments of the game. I think we should express that. So, like, you beat each of the fiends, but the best fiend fight so far was when you fight Lich. Because, Jeff, do you want to explain what Lich says?
The Lich, so you encounter in the Tomb of Wraithwall level, the Earth Temple, and it goes on evil, menacing, giant villain dialogue 47 about chaos and crystals, etc. And is building to some sort of conclusion, and Jack just says, like, I don't give a fuck about that, or something to that effect.
The Lich goes like, the ground dies, the zombies rise, for I am. And then Jack interjects. He just goes, "I don't give a fuck who you are," and then punches him. And the Lich just goes, "Lich," which is so good.
It's tremendous. I've been holding off on this question, but this just reminded me. And this is probably going to come up in like a week, but I'm going to prep you for this, right? So like there's absurd campy shit in this game.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
This is kind of a farce, in some sense, right?
Yes,
You
100%.
enjoy this though on the
Mhm.
level of like preposterous.
Yes.
How do you feel about when something like, let's say, a Metal Gear Solid goes into this territory?
So
That's a good point.
me liking the camp here more than like an MGS camp is largely derived from the fact that this game is so much punchier, right? Like we don't have how long are the cutscenes? Like 2-3 minutes, most of them. Like you're mostly playing the game. There's no half-hour long, or so far at least, there are no half-hour long cutscenes about people expounding about life and death and the Cold War. Like this is all fantasy anime nonsense, and it's generally pretty punchy. And I am much more forgiving of that than the lovingly crafted half-hour long monologues about the Soviet Union that are included in like MGS3, written from the perspective of someone who thinks, like anime walking robots are cool. So like this game, I would say the amount of cutscene might be an hour total across the whole game, whereas I think there might be 10 hours of cutscene in the MGS games I've played or more. And that's just a different ask for me,
I see. Yeah. This is a taste question, basically, right? Like, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, because, things are punchy in this game. Like, nothing is lingered on at all, like at any point.
Like I said, the nicest, the most praiseworthy thing is I feel like this game respects your time.
Yeah. I'm probably going to finish this game. I was kind of worried I wasn't going to get this done. Like, I bought this game Sunday, and I was asked by you to get to the Earth Temple, and I was like, gosh, I don't know, I'll see. I could have probably gotten well beyond that last night.
Yeah, you can beat this game in a sitting, and I did.
Yeah, like this game is generously 10 to 15 hours long if you go do some side stuff. And I think I'm done doing side stuff because we failed to mention, by the way, those unlock, you'll finish a level, you'll beat the next level, and then like you'll get back to the world map and it'll say like, hey, side quest opened up. It's at the level you just beat 2 levels ago. And it's like, oh, neat. What do you go do there? It's like, well, it's quite simple. You just run through the whole level backwards, and then you'll find an enemy you need to kill.
Hey, Jeff, remember when they did that in a certain Devil May Cry game?
Yeah, it's it kind of sucks.
The one thing I will say about
like you're leveled so far past the gear that is dropping when you go visit those. If you've been playing this game at all, like it's unless you were grinding up classes. There's not a whole lot of point, particularly when you've got, I have these anima crystals.
There's a point to backpedal. You get the alternate and higher tier jobs for each of your party members, which I can't believe we didn't talk about it. So this is a Souls Light where, you can actually teach, what the fuck's her name? Sophia can be a sage because if you unlock her memories by doing her side quest, but there's no storytelling meat to the bone on that side quest. It's just, hey, you beat Mariletha another time. Now he can be fucking Ash can be a goddamn ninja.
I haven't grokked any of those yet. But
and giving them higher level jobs is really impactful. Like Jed being a samurai, he will house things as opposed to
here's the deal though. The AI for the companions is terrible.
I don't know. If
they are not, you're not clicking the buttons to have them be aggressive. They are almost useless. And the bigger problem that I have is, especially with like the Lich, is the AI companions really like to just defeat ads or feeds or little like fiddle fuckers rather than the main boss on the screen. And there are just times where the navigation for them is really dumb. I got into a weird bit where they were constantly falling off a bridge and dying over and over again. It was very funny.
But not useful for you progressing through the level.
Yeah. Not great. It's like they were just
Um,
getting stuck, just running into a rock. It's like, why is this? You have to destroy the barrels to go through them.
No,
This.
Jed, run into barrels.
Chad, you just use your sword once.
Jed, run into barrels. Jed
God
like barrels.
Damn it.
Yeah, I think like the companions help a lot, and we should also none of us have played
multiplayer in this
co-op.
game?
Yeah,
we
none
didn't
of us
play
have played the multiplayer, but we should check it out at some point. I don't know if it's cross
that's a good
compatible,
point. Yeah,
but we
if
should
I'm
ask.
basically just putting my life in the hands, if I'm just rolling the dice and hoping that the person that I'm joining is going to actually be helpful, oh God, no, thank you, please,
Yeah.
no.
Especially
we are all
like
perfectly
9 months
split up
after.
across 3 platforms. So
Well, I believe Braden has this game, and whichever
Oh.
console he has it on, we might be able to do a co-op thing.
yeah, this game is on sale right now on the Xbox platform, which is really useful because I bought it last week.
It's a
Um,
current timed exclusive on the Epic Game Store.
Ah, how epic! Yeah,
So I think that we're having a good time. It is a dumb game so far. There will be more story stuff coming up soon, and I will say that at least for ZP playing on normal, you will probably need to have more consideration to your jobs in the latter parts of this game than you did heretofore.
I maxed out most of them, so okay, sure.
You will
I've done
probably
every single one. I've done every single side quest.
Do you have Zantetsuken yet? Do you have the Breaker
I don't
class?
know what that means. Breaker class, I think. I don't.
Breaker's cool.
Cool.
The ability
Hey.
is you just stand there charging, and if you charge it all the way, you
One of
unleash
my
an attack
favorite
that, like,
story
one-hit kills
things is
everything.
when my favorite story things, and eventually the NPCs, the story characters, call them out for this. It's like, we're the 4 warriors of life, and there's 5 of them. It's like, you guys can't do the math, huh? You really can't do the math here. There's 5 of you.
yeah, I really like the one the shitty farmer dude. He's just like, well, all the soil blew away because the wind's picking up. Like, it's if you've played Final Fantasy 1, it's kind of obvious where this is kind of going. But he's like, I guess I can just kind of scum around town now, and I don't have to worry about farming anymore. So that's cool.
And yeah, there is the fact that the crystals, it is a different scenario than in 1. So in 1, the crystals are faded because of the fiends, and when you defeat the fiends, whatever like crystal you restored causes the respective element to go back to normal. So like the land is all fetid and terrible. You defeat Lich, the land goes back to being normal. In this game, the land starts out normal, and then when you defeat Lich, the earthquakes start breaking out, or like fire starts burning hotter when you defeat Merilith. So the crystals are actually keeping everything in balance, and you defeating the fiends is bringing things out of balance, which is interesting. And maybe it'll be relevant. Who's to say?
Who's to say?
Yeah, so I think that'll do it for our first look at Sapfo, Stranger Paradise Final Fantasy Origins.
I forget. Are you the origin of the term Sapfo, or did you get that from someone? Because you're the only person I know that calls it Sapfo.
I got it from Braden.
I
think he called
okay.
it Sapfo, and I'm like, that's a funny name for this game.
A dumb name for a dumb game.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's worth saying also, I don't know. Apparently in Japanese, this game is not as tongue-in-cheek as it is in English.
Oh, right. So I played this game with the Japanese. It is played straight. Completely and totally played straight. This game has like the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure voice cast, but they're very, very... Imagine, Jeff, if the voice actor for Dio was Jack.
Okay.
And it was just like big buff Bara daddies just talking nonstop, but like never winking directly into the camera. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like immediately after playing the game with the Japanese voice acting, I'm just like, I can't do this. This is not. I need the jokey joke.
It gets to, I guess, the MGS thing too, is like, for all of the problems that those games have with their writing, and they definitely do as a fan, basically. I think it was all very intentionally done. And this game, just based on that VO stuff, I really don't know if they know what they were doing. Like I really,
I feel
and,
like that's been the big question or debate is this game meant to be serious? Like, did Nomura try to tell a serious story, or was Nomura in on the joke? And the English translation was like, "Oh my God, Nomura, we have to spin this a different way, otherwise people are going to make fun of you."
Yeah. Because there's all these little tells that, like, clearly this is a gag, right? Like, clearly this, like, you know, this game can be good and also have gags and be funny, right? Like, it can be a piss take, but a fun piss take. But then you hear that, and it's like, oh man, no, did they mean that? Is this guy supposed to be cool? Is Jack supposed to be cool?
Yeah.
Is this guy cool?
It's supposed to be the story of an angry man.
Yeah,
as
like
Tetsuya
that
Nomura
statement
said.
alone, right? Like, I don't, you know, like when you say that, what are you trying to get across?
Angry men are cool.
So
open for debate.
Yeah.
Thing,
thing,
I think that's what the game is saying.
Gino, I've been meaning to ask you. I guess we can just hash this out because we're all here. Do we review the Season Pass DLC, the story DLC, separately, or do we review it with this?
Separately, because I have not played it yet, and I think there will be enough just from the game, and we can come back to the story DLC if we want to, but I want to give room for... So we will have a special episode, a special one-off episode that will probably be shorter, a special one-off Final Fantasy episode on the mobile Final Fantasy VII First Soldier, because the servers for that are going down soon. So that will be coming up soon, so look forward to it. But ZP, you and Jeff both played it. I can't get it to run on my phone without crashing, so we might have to have another ringer. But I don't think that's going to rank very highly on our rankings, so I think I'm okay with trusting you on this one.
Yeah.
It's the most grognard game that I look forward to having a discussion about tax evasion and insider trading.
Yeah, everything around that game has become so much more interesting than what's in there.
I've never seen. I'm specifically talking about Yuji Naka. I have never seen someone become persona non grata quicker than Yuji Naka in the Japanese video game industry at this point.
He has been unpersoned, basically. Like, it is really wild. We will talk about it in the First Soldier episode, though.
If you want to, while you're enjoying your winter holiday stuff, Hanukkah, whatever, consider playing First Soldier with us, because you don't have that many months left, my guys.
We should start a clan.
And gals and non-binaries and identifiers of neither.
We should start a team clan thing in there. That would be really funny.
It's just do it like the end of the Matrix Online, but for this godless game. That would be very funny.
I really want to figure out any and all plot stuff that's in this game, like, because they've had to have invented a couple things.
Well, it's weird. It's seasonal to where, like,
right.
So we've missed like 4 or 5 chapters at this point. I need to
Zack
look it up.
versus Cloud arc, and
it's kind of weird, but also, we're mostly going to talk about Yuji Naka in jail right now, if I seem to recall.
I guess so. All right. Well, reminder, you can get in touch with the show at DeepListensPod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. You can support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens, and you can support the National Network of Abortion Funds as well. Just go to the link at the bottom of this episode description. So thank you, ZP.
Cube's here.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks. Check out the Off the Deep End episode that got posted last time. We got a guest, Nick Pandemonium Broadway from YouTube, on there talking about Virtual Highline. There's I did a thing at the end of that episode.
I strongly recommend listening to that episode as someone who did not know anything about Virtual Highline. Man, that sounds incredible. You tell me that you made a role-playing game using a golf engine? Yes, please.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And thank you, listeners. Till next time, peace.